The truck was stopped. I had fallen asleep. It was before sunrise when I was loaded up, and now it was late afternoon. The back doors were open, the sunlight low and hot over what I saw behind the truck as a deserted highway. There were mountains to the west. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, even over the mountain peaks. The sun had warmed the truck enough to make me drift off, apart from the boredom of waiting for my end. Of course, it could be the mind reader on the roof. Of the many things these spy boxes were known for, they were known for tranquilizing people, making them docile by altering the brain wave. After all, the brain was an electrical appliance, so any manipulation of the electricity would alter the brain functions, at least as far as I know. Perhaps I'd be the last person on earth to call myself an expert on these things. However, it is a function of the spy box to put people to sleep. It's no mystery now that if anyone's reading this, I've not been executed. Yet. Funny thing about that. But not right now. Nope, I'm still alive. Still breathing. I've got the need to explain myself with the blow-up of Arizona and the man whose name had been stricken from the record books. Brian Cole, the devil incarnate. Not much of a name. At least not one for someone who was that close to blowing up the world. At least that was the reputation he had in that thin span of time between before what he did, and after. Current events moved damned fast, and the instant he came on the scene as someone with a grudge against the state, and someone who could push against the state, the world was quick to jump on the news. Brian Cole had the dream of returning the country back to the people. Isn't that the dream of every lunatic? Not in so many democratic bromides that make me want to vomit. That mutual sovereignty of people, like what it was once before, long ago. Then again, most of the old history books have gone to the paper shredder and have been conveniently rewritten. Some dumb fool with political ambitions could have rewritten the period of dinosaurs with pink unicorns and elves, and the world would have bought it completely. Hook, line, and sinker. No one doubts what the fool's running the big G says, whatever it is, wherever it is. So this guy, Brian Cole, gets into the loan business with some money he choked out of some lobbyist. Don't know how that came about. Again, can't trust a damn thing any of the experts say. Leastways about old Brian Cole. What he did was loan out huge big G money to hoodlums wanting to kill a man. Since the loans were guaranteed by the big G, they were good as gold. The fat 10% profit was just a strawberry on the shortcake. How it turned out, the hoodlums were no one. They didn't exist. They were ghosts. Somehow Cole got his hands on real IDs on people who weren't around anymore, and faked the loans and took the money. What was more, how he negotiated the loans with the big G, he managed to get advances on the interest he would have earned on the loans he offered. The murderers and the murderers were all a big fat lie to leverage big money from the big G. The only real victim in this caper was a street bum who stumbled drunk and drowned in a mud puddle. This was the real Brian Cole. That was when the boys at the Big G realized Brian Cole wasn't real any more than the killers he was loaning the Big G money to. It didn't take long for the Big Daddy G to figure things out. Brian Cole pissed the daddy off and was going to suffer for it. Turned out Brian Cole was Brian Valence, a nobody who owned most of the ruins of Las Vegas. Ruins is a kind word. Las Vegas was a shithole. It was the perfect kind of shithole for the types of people Brian pretended to loan money to, killers and thugs. The difference was, these were real killers and real thugs. Big Daddy G. It was worse than that. Brian, not Cole, was building an army financed by the money swiped from Big Daddy G. I'm going to invent a big fucking knife and cut this corner of the country right off from the rest. They can have the rest of it. I'll take this. And make it new again, my kind of place. Not as poetic as it seemed at first, maybe noble or heroic or lunatic. The details, for all they are worth, are contradictory at best. According to Daddy G, Mr. Cole had a few nukes he swiped from an insider in the G. It was his idea to use them to extort money from the G, hence the loans, which turned out to be a lie. That devil Cole had been wanting to blow up the world all along. I've always wondered about the lunatics who want to blow up the world, whether they were crazy or that was just the official story from the Big G. Always more efficient just to make them out to be crazy than to figure what the hell they were really up to. Even animals have motives: food, fuck, fight. Rarely do raccoons or badgers or stray cats go around plotting to bump off some asshole who kicked them out of the trash can they were rummaging through. Deer don't plot against hunters. Of course, these days there are no such things, guns, knives, etc., unless the fellow is nuts and has the wherewithal to hunt with his bare hands. Might be best if he hunts bear with his bare hands and just gets his execution out of the way. Animal murder is murder, as the official statement goes. I had a guy in the place I worked in get all worked up in a lather because he stomped a spider to death. Fucking Danny, I don't want to get fried. You feel you need to get breaded and battered and ready for the fryer? What gives? We worked an assembly line for cages, jail cages for the likes of the sort of fellow who gets locked up. Like me. I worked the welder jig. He stood by and made sure the welder robot didn't weld its arm together. Yes, if one has to ask, the guy was there because the robot welder sometimes went loopy and welded themselves together. It's not a good deal to shut down an assembly line because a robot had a nervous breakdown, especially something so important as a jail cell assembly line. I just stomped that poor spider. The one that's been living under the conduit? Under the robot? What for? Because it's a spider. They get these teeth and fangs and they bite. Hell, Bobby, the thing isn't a shark or a wolf. They don't go running around hunting people. It was there, and I just stomped it. Well, what are you on about? If it was just there, why stomp it? Because it was there. I was getting annoyed. He kept saying it like it was supposed to mean something. Bobby was almost in tears, his hands shaking so bad he couldn't hit the right switch on the robot to put it on pause. Why are you trying to stop the robot? I got to talk with the supervisor. He's going to be pissed that you stopped the line because of a spider. I have to figure if I have to report it. You're an idiot, Bobby. You're an idiot. Bobby shut the line down and ran off to see the supervisor. I was actually beside myself. Usually I'm not bothered or pissed off or offended by much, but this was too much. Jackass would get into trouble more for stopping the line over a spider than killing the spider. Of course, I remember someone else was in the panic because he had spent time in the break room swatting at flies, and they had to dispose of the swatter, so there was no evidence. Evidence of a murder of flies. Like hunters killing animals, they feared the consequences of their alleged crime. I think the only crime they were guilty of was stupidity. But they're still back at work, and I'm in the van going to my execution. That's what I wonder. Did old Cole think anything about being killed for what he was doing? He just wanted to make a place for himself in the world, and the world thought otherwise. Typical world. Daddy G says it was Cole and his ilk who blew the nukes and set off the fires which turned most of Arizona into a wasteland. Some I know say it was Daddy G sorting the problem out, tripping the bombs by remote right under Cole's nose, getting him and his pals in one shot. Of course, these conspiracists don't utter a word about this in public, or else they'd be seated right next to me, ready to waste a few more bullets for the cause of justice. Somewhere I heard the nukes were there all along, and that Cole went there to get them out for his own. Could be they went off when he tried to get them, or they were set off because they were bait for a trap, and left Cole to be the big boogeyman for the world to be galvanized against. Of course, no reason to go after a villain if he's dead, unless he's inspired a whole bunch just like him. This leads me to myself being stuck in this damned truck. It's been 10 hours since I was supposed to be dead. It's been the usual place, the parking lot out behind the Universal Trade, out west of the city on the other side of the Capitol. You could smell the gunpowder and the blood and see the stains on the concrete. Of course, you see all of the bullet holes. They use these massive rounds in these rifles to make sure you're dead. One shot.